Hi, I'm Bill Arnold. Thank you for listening to this podcast of Real Recovery. There are many more podcasts available at myfaithradio.com. Your support makes this possible. Thank you. Welcome to Real Recovery. Bill Arnold on this side of the studio, and just across the way, a man who has a real-life, grainy, semi-out-of-focus picture of Bigfoot, George P. Fraser. Hello, George.
You know, I saw that on X this week out of an airplane. They were flying low, and they saw this guy. Had to be a setup.
Yeah, but that's impressive. I'm glad to be here with you tonight, this morning, and we're going to have an amazing discussion with Brianna, who's going to join us in just a few minutes. She's got quite a story.
You know, I never get tired of hearing God's story in us, because that's what it is. And victory. And we hope, if you're listening, that you sense the hope that only comes from God by hearing these stories. And, of course, every week we do a step. And, Bill, tonight, yesterday, today, or tomorrow, I wanted to focus on step 3, where we make a decision.
Okay.
To turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understand him. And, of course, we understand him to be Jesus. John 14:6, I'm the way, the truth, the life. No one comes to the Father except through the Son, talking about himself. And that's the highest power, not a higher power. But this step is critical for every Christian, that if you are saved, it wasn't a verbal, Alec, I'll take Jesus for 500. You actually have to back up what you said with your behavior and your intention, I think. For those of us who are in recovery from chemicals, maybe the first time in our life we really tried it, something was to get sober. Mm-hmm. And I was told way back by a friend of mine named Denny that if you properly work step 3, George, you got out of the decision-making business. So you have a board of directors, and Jesus is the head of it. And when you have that meeting and the committee in your head starts sharing, like with me, you don't have to go to church today. You should sleep in. You got to run it by God. What does his word say? So this really encompasses more than saying the step. It involves working the step. And as Jimmy T from Myrtle Beach talks about, you don't work a recovery program, you live a recovery program. And for me, I didn't get sober till I did that. I pray for sobriety before I get out of bed. And in the Blue Recovery book, it talks about upon awakening, we turn our thoughts to God and what he would have us do that day. And I don't know about you, Bill, but I know you get up and you drink your coffee and read your Bible and pray to God, what would he have you do that day? And that's a whole different thing than what's in this for me today. The reason we're in recovery is not because we drink or do drugs. It's because we're selfish, self-centered, and egocentric. What does that mean? What's in this for me? What do I get out of this? Always thinking about me, George Fraser. Mm-hmm. I struggle with that today. I will struggle with that the rest of my life. And I heard a long time ago a definition of humility, Bill. It's not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. And when I know that God wants me to do something, it's usually at the worst time for me. It's interrupting me. And I had one the other day at the swimming pool. I'm waiting to get a lane. I got to go to do some counseling work at Redemption House, and the lanes are full. And I'm praying, God, open up a lane, because otherwise I'm late for work because I'm getting my swim in.
Yeah.
And this lady gets out. She goes, it's all yours. And I'm talking to her. And she said, you swim every day, I see her. And I go, yeah. I said, I can't swim like I used to. I have half a lung. She goes, did you have lung cancer?
Wow.
I said, yeah, I did. She goes, my husband has lung cancer, and he's getting operated on next Tuesday. Mm-hmm. I said, how long have you been married? 20 years. And I said, I really hope you can encourage him. She goes, how long ago was it for you? I go, 7 years. Now my swim isn't that important. I'm still going to get it in, mind you.
Yeah.
But, Bill, you always talk to me that if God is sovereign, which he is, every person you meet is a godly appointment.
That was the most important part of your day. It wasn't your swim. It was talking to her.
It was.
Yeah.
And I realized that after, how grateful I am that I'm in a position to actually help somebody and encourage them rather than being the bad example of what you don't want to do, and that's all God. But, God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, as victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. That's the third step prayer. And I try to say that every day because I want to get the self out of the way. And here's the bottom line. If you're working on this and struggling like I do, God's way is always better than my way. It might not be that instant gratification kick, but when I was laying in bed that night thinking about the day and getting ready to pray, thank God for sobriety, I remembered this lady, Anne Marie, whose husband is getting operated on this week.
Wow.
And God, thank you for allowing me to be a part of this.
Mm-hmm.
And so much bigger than we are.
Yeah. And what a miracle that December will be 7 years for you.
God willing.
God willing, yeah.
And as a good friend of mine said, once again, I disappointed everyone by living, which is the funniest line ever. Guy looked a lot like you.
Probably because I said it.
Yeah. But, I think about that every day. I had a nurse tell me, you're a miracle. I go, I've always thought so, yeah. But what you realize is this has nothing to do with us. And that's what this step says to me, Bill. If you make a decision to turn your will and your life over to the care of God, God is helping you do that by drawing you in, that you need to do that, you want to do that, and you will be happy if you do it. And let's face it, a lot of us tried everything. We went into it real hard. Our using was a big event deal. Your recovery has to be a big event deal, and there's no bigger event than God Almighty, and that he wants you to work for him, and he calls you a son, an heir. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. It is really cool. So you got a lot going for you, George.
Got that going for me.
Yeah. And you've got that real grainy, semi-out of focus picture of Bigfoot. So you have that.
How do you know it's not Sasquatch?
Well, I think it's the same. I think same thing. Sasquatch, Bigfoot. I think
is that an alias for Bigfoot?
I don't know. I think it's the same creature.
Yeah. Well, he might show up at your house this weekend.
I say bring it on.
I know you
Fraser.
do.
Yeah, I say bring it on.
If I can get past the barbed wire, I'm coming.
Yeah, you bring it on, schoolboy. All right. We've got a great show. Brianna's up next. We're going to talk to her, hear her story, and the incredible transformation that God has been doing in her life. And it's been a remarkable story. So you are listening to Real Recovery. If this is your first time listening to the program, we're so glad you found us. You can learn more about us at myfaithradio.com. We'll take a short break and be right back. Welcome to Real Recovery. I'm looking at Psalm 103, and in verse 4 it says, who redeems your life from the pit and crowns you with love and compassion. George, one of the things I love about Real Recovery is every story we hear about someone where God has redeemed their life from the pit.
Absolutely, and he's the only one who can do that.
That is so true, George. Again, you're saying wise things.
It's early. Give me some time to get back to me. But I never get tired of hearing God's story in people. People think it's their story. It's God's story in us, Bill.
That's true. Well, let's welcome to our program tonight, Brianna. Brianna, nice to have you here.
Hi, guys. Nice to be here.
Well, I have to say, when I reached out to you, I was shocked because you responded to me and you said, I said, can you be on the show? And you said, well, yes, I can, but I'm getting married right now.
Yes.
So I thought you responded to me on your wedding day.
Yes,
that's
sir.
the type of person you were.
Yes.
Are, I should say.
You got to like that.
Oh, my goodness.
I wouldn't have.
No. You won't respond if you're watching hockey.
Well, if I see Arnold calling, I don't answer anyway. That's why we have voicemail.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we want to hear your story. Tell us about young Brianna growing up. Where did you grow up? What was family life like? And what was school life like? And did you go to church and all that stuff?
All right. Yeah. So I grew up in Fergus Falls, actually, very little town. My upbringing was relatively normal. My stepdad is an attorney. My mom stayed at home. I have a brother who's a drug cop. But the difference is that my biological dad and my mom got pregnant very young, and my mom, just left him and cut him out of my life. And I know now she was trying to protect me, but the damage that comes along with pulling a parent out of a child's life is it's prominent. And I didn't really understand I didn't understand that hole. I didn't understand what that was. Growing up, I was always very angry. And I was always searching for something, and I didn't understand what. And I'm a very loud and reactive kind of person, so it was kind of a not great recipe. I started reaching out to, older guys when I was young. There was a situation that happened with some older guys that really, really traumatized me, and I ended up getting sent to a Christian girls' home when I was 15.
Mm-hmm.
So school was very rough. I didn't go a lot. I did get homeschooled when I got sent to this girls' home, which was probably the best thing that could have happened to me. Didn't seem so at the time. With all the things I was dealing with, and the lack thereof, any resources to kind of check out, I did develop a really bad eating disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of times that's kind of taboo. People don't talk about that a whole lot. And I mean, that was extremely detrimental to my mental health. And, I had that for 15 years and I didn't tell a soul about it, which is a very dark secret to hold for that long of a time. Satan will, use that in every scenario. And he did. And it really deteriorated my identity. I didn't have any self-worth, nothing. And I was very good at keeping it together on the outside, but inside there was just a void. Eventually though, I, got out of that situation. My eating disorder continued. I did get pregnant very young, which did help me kind of pull it together for a little bit. I, stopped the eating disorder while I was pregnant. After I had her, my depression and things like that just got really, really bad. And eventually those things, like the eating disorder, going inward with my pain, it didn't cover that anymore. So I turned to harder drugs and I fell into an opiate addiction. And I was addicted to painkillers for about 2 years before it really started to affect my life. But once it did, I mean, it's crazy how quickly things shatter when you fall into an addiction like that and the hopelessness that comes from it. And I didn't really know who to turn to. When you're good at keeping an image, once people find out that you have a problem, they really don't know how to react to it the best, I suppose. And that's kind of what happened to me. And I felt very alone. My parents took my daughter at that point. And
how old were you at this time?
At this time, I was probably about 24.
Okay, so if we could go back a little.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Counselor, I want to go back and I know you've got questions, so let's take this a little bit slower.
Sorry.
Fabulous start here, and I want to put the brakes on it a little bit so I can catch up. So can we go back to where you're at the Christian home, being homeschooled, and how old were you then? 15?
I was 15.
15. And how long did you stay there? And were you going to church? Were you reading the Bible? How was that going?
It was rough. I was, young and very upset at the time, and it was Christian based, so it was very mandatory, the things that were there, which helped me to, expand on just my knowledge of the Bible. We were going to church regularly. I was being exposed to different kinds of denominations, which was great for me at the time. It really put me in a position to kind of figure out some things. But yeah, I was there for 9 months.
So did you think at all at the time, okay, I think this is probably right for people, but I'm not like that? Mm-hmm. Did you think maybe these guys were super goody two-shoes and that's not you? Did you have anything like that?
I just didn't feel the same. I mean, I saw the things in front of me that people were experiencing, but I wasn't experiencing them yet, for myself. And so I just kind of, stepped back and let everyone else kind of do what they did and got through it.
Mm-hmm. Brianna, if you would talk a little bit about your eating disorder, how did that work? What were you doing? Were you binging and purging?
Yes,
were you laxatives?
all of the things.
Everything.
All of the things.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that started at what age?
15.
Okay. So there was some body image at 15.
Yes.
What brought you into eating disorder?
Well, when I was 15, there was a situation that happened with some boys, and it was not good.
Okay.
And there was a lot of trauma that came from there. And being in an environment where like I didn't have the opportunity to go use drugs at that point, or escape in any other type of fashion. So that was kind of the only thing that I had to like release any type of pain that, I had inside from that. And so that was my way of coping at the time. Obviously it grew into something way worse.
When you purge, is there like a high or a relief that comes from that?
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes to like, there's a release. Like when you are dealing with trauma or, whatever it is, like it's, trying to find a really, like, some people go running or some people, will get high and things like that to help them release this pain or, and this is a lot of like self-harm stuff. Like that's where cutting comes into place, like the release of something. And that's pretty much what it was.
Is it an escape too?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so it works for
yes.
a while, so you keep doing it, and my guess is it progresses.
Yeah. I mean, you don't really, and I mean, it doesn't have a lot of serious, like, effects like using drugs, not visible ones anyway.
Can't get arrested.
Right. Which is very rough.
So you're just kind of trying to survive this, move on, and here's a coping strategy that kind of works.
Yeah.
And Brianna, I would say that of the guests that we've had on Real Recovery, most stories start with some kind of alcohol or drug use as early as age 8 or 9.
Yeah.
So were drugs available to you and you just were able to say no at this point, and you just chose food as your way of self-medicating? Yeah.
I mean, the guys that I was hanging out with at that age, they were all doing drugs.
Okay.
And I just didn't partake. Like I just didn't want to do that. So
did you get any help or any counseling from the traumatic experience you had at this age? Or did that get swept under the rug?
That actually didn't really get talked about until, I went to Teen Challenge. So it wasn't until like years and years later. That's why this eating disorder got so bad, because for 15 years, I didn't talk about it.
So you had a deep secret.
Yes. Bad.
And that was torturing you?
Mm-hmm.
George, thoughts?
Yeah, I was wondering, did you find any other girls that had the same thing and hung out with them? So you're all alone here?
Yeah, and it's a very isolating thing, just like with drugs, because it's a secret I don't want anyone to know. So you get very good at manipulating people. You get very good. Like I was in an environment where there was staff, there were other girls, and I had a full-blown eating disorder, and they never picked up on it.
Wow.
And so it's you become very... It's a survival thing. Like I was not willing to let go of that because I didn't know what the results would be if I didn't have that at the time.
I get that. Yeah.
And were you ever tempted to cut?
I wasn't.
Okay.
And that is, I think about that and I'm very grateful to God for that, because I feel like that would have not been great.
Mm-hmm. So when you're binge eating, tell me the environment in which this happens, because you're not overeating in front of your friends, are you?
No.
So you're doing this all in private?
Yes.
And tell me how that happens and what time of day, and do you structure it where you can consume a lot of food and then get rid of it?
I mean, generally, like a lot of the times I would just not eat. Because when you're around people, like I generally was most of the time, people pay attention. And it's harder to hide eating excessive amounts than not at all. And so generally I would be alone. It was only if I was alone that I would do that.
And because I haven't talked a lot about eating disorders on this show, I'm curious, when you're going to have an experience or you're going to binge, what would be on the menu?
I mean, anything.
Okay.
And that also is kind of, difficult, because when you have a disorder like that, like, it just like with drugs, it costs money. And so when you're doing things like that, it doesn't really, anything, just like with a drug addiction.
It's interesting to me how long you did that, but I want to go back to, so you were at the Christian home for 9 months.
Yep.
And then did you go back to regular school?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
How long after that did you start using? Did you smoke pot, smoke cigarettes?
Yep. I started smoking weed pretty quickly. It was rough getting kind of plucked out of my high school and then really rashly put back. That was hard. And so not only do I have this new addiction that is covered in shame and, you know, I'm trying to keep hidden, I'm now coming back into an environment where everyone's, you know, gossiping or things like that. So it was very rough for me. So I went right back to the people that the trauma originated from and started dating them. You know, I went right back to the darkness from once I came, and I stayed there for a very long time.
And they smoked pot.
Yeah, they sold drugs, they did drugs, and at that point I was just kind of like, whatever.
Do you remember the first time you got high?
I do.
Did you like it?
Not really. Not really.
Really?
Not really.
Okay.
I remember smoking weed because everything I did wasn't for like fun. Everything I was doing was because I was in pain. And so if I was using, it was generally because of distraction. Like that was a main reason. That's another thing with eating disorders is like the momentary distraction that you have. That's a big thing that I have to make sure I keep, you know, at the forefront of my mind, that I'm not distracting myself.
Did you still get the escape from it though?
Mm-hmm, of
okay.
course.
So did you think after the first time I'm going to be doing this again?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Brianna, did you have a sibling or an aunt or uncle or a coach or anybody that was looking at you saying, boy, are you okay?
Yes, I did.
And how did you dodge that?
I mean, I just didn't go to places where and with drug addiction too, you hang out with people who aren't going to try to get you to quit. Mm-hmm. You know, so I stopped going to school. I stopped going home. I moved out when I was 17 and it was off to the races at that point. And so there was nothing that was really going to get me to stop.
So if you move out when you're 17 and you're just smoking pot, that had to turn to other drugs, I would think, fairly quickly.
Fairly quickly.
Yeah. What did you do?
I ended up turning to painkillers. And painkillers really, that was really a struggle. To this day, like I started using IV meth and heroin. I've been clean for almost 3 years now, but opiates, pharmaceutical, painkillers were the rough of the rough for me because I loved them. They made me numb. I didn't think, I didn't feel, I wasn't high, I wasn't low, I was just existing, which to me was where I had to be to survive, you know, because I mean, with high highs came low lows, and the low lows were too low for me to handle living through. So,
All right, we'll take a little break. You're listening to Real Recovery with Bill and George. We're so glad to have Brianna as our guest today. We're going to be right back after a short break. Welcome back to Real Recovery, Bill and George. Hey, George, do you want to do a little recap of what Brianna's been talking about so far? See how well you've been paying attention?
I'll do a recap of you.
We don't need to do that.
No, it's very interesting. So she grew up and her biological dad moved out, I think at the request of mom. And when she was going to school, they wanted her to go to a Christian homeschool for a while, which she did for 9 months. She was 15 at the time. And then after that, she moved out. She wanted what they had, but it really wasn't her.
Right.
You know, and a lot of us can identify with that. We go to church and we know that it's true, but that's just not us. And we wish it was, but it won't work for us. But the seed has been planted, which we will hear about later.
Yeah.
And then she goes back out and she goes back to school. Of course, that's hard. And she started an eating disorder to escape a traumatic event that happened. And when she gets back, in order to kind of plug back in, she hangs around with the same people that got her into the traumatic experience, and she starts smoking pot. And then after a while, I think she was 17, and she moved out and she started doing meth and opioids.
And heroin, IV.
IV,
yeah.
That's what an opioid is. Yeah,
okay,
part
sorry.
of it.
Yeah.
And so now she's getting up and getting down, and the addiction is probably full cycle. How's that?
That's really good. Brianna, you have no idea how much trouble I'm in for putting George on the spot like that. I'm in trouble, aren't I?
It's Bill, right?
Yeah, it's Bill.
Okay. No. It's very interesting. And Bill, it's God's story in her. God is sovereign. Nothing happens that he doesn't allow. And sometimes we're going, hey, where are you in this?
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's going to show up eventually. But you said you got yourself off painkillers.
Mm-hmm.
How did you do that?
It was rough. A lot of withdrawing.
Yeah.
A lot.
Why did you get off them?
Because it was miserable. Eventually,
Tell me about the pain and misery, please. I'm in recovery myself, and I always need to hear that.
Yeah. I mean, I had gotten to a point where it was no longer the numb, just guiding along. It was now extreme lows, constantly withdrawing. Even, a lot of people talk about, using to be normal, but that was very, very much gone. Pretty much every single day I was extremely sick, couldn't get up. I would sleep in the bathtub a lot so I could turn the water on hot or cold because of the, extreme fever or chills. And at this, at the worst of it, I was withdrawing off Suboxone at this point, and that I was abusing. And, man, like it was 12 days of pure hell. And on the 12th day, like I was like, if this doesn't stop, I can't do this anymore. Like I can't.
What does that mean?
Like I was just going to end my life. I couldn't handle any more of the pain. And by the grace of God, I woke up the next day and I could at least get out of bed, and it was better than it was the night before. And, I had had enough. I was done. And I was sick of it. And it was 2 years of this. And I moved out the boy that I was dating, using with, and I moved home to Fergus Falls, and I got a place there with my daughter, and things were okay. It was still really hard because I really didn't understand recovery or, what that looked, I didn't have any people around me in recovery. I was, keeping this secret of addiction and my eating disorder. So, I was holding a lot of darkness and trying to just maintain it. I mean, I'm surprised I got as far as I did because, it was rough. And so.
The grace of God.
Grace of God.
That is the reason why.
The grace.
Yeah.
So the reason, and thank you for sharing that, for people that are listening that are in recovery or thinking about it, when we think about using, if we're in recovery, we usually think about the best times using. And a guy told me one time, think about your last week of using.
Yeah.
You want to compare apples to apples, because if you're thinking about using, your recovery is probably not going that well.
Yeah.
And people need to go through the pain and misery, and that's always still out there. So how long did you stay clean?
Off of painkillers?
Yeah.
Well, I actually started using harder drugs. So when people are coming off of opiates, they tend to, lean into, using meth or Adderall to help them get through the withdrawals is what I did. And so, when I had moved back, I had been clean for, a couple months.
From opioids?
Correct.
Okay.
And my mom came to my house and we had an altercation, and I ended up going to jail that night, and she took my daughter with her. When I got out of jail, and I didn't have my daughter, I just dove. Not into opiates, but into meth. And I went straight to the needle and started IV using meth immediately.
Okay. So every day?
Yes, all day.
Okay. How did you get it? Were you selling it?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, you hang around with the people like I said earlier, that aren't going to try to slow you down. They're not going to try to get you to stop. And we're all kind of in this space of struggle, so, and we don't, walking through the trenches with people like that, we were kind of a little family, and so that's why a lot of people struggle with letting go of old friends and old environments, because it did, we were soothing a problem. Like, drugs weren't our problem. They were our medication at the time. We were trying to soothe something. They were the solution. So we still had that trauma that struggle, regardless of the drugs.
You hit on something that's real key, Bill. It is the solution at the time. And the reason most people don't get and stay sober is they don't develop a new solution. Mm-hmm. And when we look into the book of Ephesians, it talks about you have to put off the old, but you have to put on the new. And most people, I did this for 7 years, didn't put on the new.
Yeah.
And you've lost your solution, and you probably lose your friends because people will tell you they're not your real friends. In a lot of cases, like me, they were, but when I'm around them, I want to use, right?
Yeah.
And so you're dead. Would you sleep at all? How long would you, and how many days could you stay up in a row?
I mean, I pretty much try to sleep every night, because generally when you don't sleep, you end up in jail. You start doing crazy things. So that was where I normally slept, was when I would land in jail.
How long did you keep this going?
10 years.
Wow. So people say a lot of times addicts don't have willpower. It takes a lot of willpower to do that.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at getting sober, being sober and in recovery is a lot easier than you're using. Mm-hmm. And don't let anybody tell you don't have willpower, because you do, to keep it going. Yes. Using drugs and living the lifestyle is a lot harder than the recovery lifestyle, although getting sober is the first time a lot of us ever really tried in our life. And what we're trying to do is survive and live.
Yeah.
And you did it 10 years.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
It was rough.
Did you ever find yourself doing things that you couldn't believe you would ever do?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I'm not asking what they are. I'm just wondering if...
Crazy.
Yeah, you look at what you would consider to be within your realm of morality, and you push the boundaries on that.
Yep. Well, there was no slowing down. Like I said earlier, it was about distraction, and I didn't have my daughter, so it was whatever the means to stay distracted 24/7. So, I mean, meth is good at keeping you preoccupied.
Mm-hmm. And George, what Brianna said relative to the family environment, the group of people that they're doing drugs with together, they were community, and that was important.
Yeah.
And how important community is.
Yeah.
Totally. No matter how healthy it is, you seek that out.
Yeah.
And I was at a fundraising dinner, and we've heard this.
Did you give any money?
I try to get out before they do that. Okay. Usually they pray, and you'll hear my chair going back. No, it's one I contribute to. It's a really good organization. And a guy said that, addiction is isolation, and recovery is community and connection. And you connect while you're using with your drug and with the people you're doing it with, but you're not connected to God.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
And that's why it's not good enough.
Yeah. So, Brianna, let's get to the point where you're at a place you call bottom, and you look up and say, Jesus, if you don't come, I'm dead.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, I actually was on the run, and...
Was the law looking for you?
They were.
Okay.
I had 11 pending felonies at the time. And I had just gotten kicked out of treatment. I was in Minneapolis.
Were you at Teen Challenge?
No, not yet.
Okay.
And I knew there was something wrong with me. I was in a lot of pain, and I thought I had broken my collarbone because I couldn't move my arm. And I went into the hospital, told them I was on drugs and there was something wrong with me, and they called the police and they arrested me there. They brought me back to Otter Tail County, and while I was at Otter Tail County, they finally brought me into the hospital, and they found out that I had endocarditis from shooting up, which means that I got a virus in my heart, and I had let it go to a point that was not good. So I was in a coma for a month and a half, and they did surgery on my heart. Got a little scar right here.
Was it medically induced coma?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And, I was on dialysis. It was pretty bad. And, they brought a pastor into prayer over my body. They did not think I was going to make it. A lot of people who are this far gone, like 95% of my heart was, covered, with vegetation. And so, I woke up though, which was crazy. And, it was a long recovery process. I was there for 4.5 months. I had to learn how to walk again, use my arms, and it was rough.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It was rough.
So what happened to the spiritual transformation? When did that start taking place?
Before I went into the hospital and got sick, I was in jail, before I was on the run, and God showed up for me in my cell. It's kind of hard to explain, but I was just sitting there and I was reading a book. I read like a sentence of this book, and this just revelation of the realness of God hit me. And that was kind of as far as it went, because I got out, went right back, and but regardless of me going back out, I knew that God was real from that moment forward. Mm-hmm. And I was on fire too, which is kind of funny. I was, but I had a Bible with me.
Okay.
George loves this point.
I do. This is how great God is.
Yeah.
Our recovery starts when we're still using.
Messy.
Because a lot of people, I did this, I'd go out and do coke and start talking about Jesus.
Hallelujah.
And it's like, why do we do that? Because God's drawing you in. I got to ask you, curiosity, what book was it?
It was, it's a purple book.
The purple one.
Yeah.
It's a purple one, you guys. And I literally grabbed it. Oh, I can't remember the title of it, but I remember just grabbing it, not even realizing it was a faith book. And, I liked the texture of it. And I opened it and read the first line, and it was like, boom.
Oh, cool. So God's at work now.
Yeah.
My guess is you're still fighting it a little.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to jump in all the way because, maybe this won't work.
Right.
How does this play out for you?
It was a struggle. When I woke up, I was alone a lot in the hospital, and I actually even relapsed there. And, I still had my Bible with me. I was still doing all the things, struggling, using by myself in the hospital. And Teen Challenge actually denied. I was trying to get a Teen Challenge from the hospital, and they denied me because of my medical condition. And they wanted proof that I wasn't going to die when I got out of the hospital. So I went to 2 treatments, you guys. I went to 2 of them, pushed through, and got to Teen Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So, literally months later.
So when did you have your moment of clarity where you thought the claims of Jesus Christ are true, and I'm going to put my faith and trust in him?
Not until probably about 7 months into Teen Challenge, my first go around.
All right.
My eating disorder stuff, I went to Teen Challenge, and I was not trying to work on that. I was not telling anyone about it still. And about 7 months in, you guys, I felt like, when you're about to cry and you have a ball in your throat? And that is what I felt. And I felt like something was getting pulled out of me. And I remember sitting on my bed and looking at my roommate, holding my throat and being like, I feel like I'm about to tell a secret and I don't understand what is happening. I didn't understand, this, something was compelling me to tell someone about this, and I didn't want it to happen, and it wouldn't stop, and it did. I was in my chaplain's office, and it just got pulled right out of me, and for the first time in my life, chains broke. That was the first actual deliverance I've experienced, and I didn't even want it. Wasn't asking for it. I wasn't ready, didn't want to fix it, and I have not engaged in any eating bad eating behavior since that day.
Very cool.
Where the Holy Spirit broke into your life.
Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah. You're listening to Real Recovery. We're going to take a short break and be right back with Brianna in just a minute. Welcome back to the show, Real Recovery. Bill and George. George, quite a story that Brianna has.
Really interesting.
Yep.
So good.
Yep. I love what we're going to hear now, more about what God has done in your life, because he has broken the power of addiction or the power of sin in your life.
Yeah.
And given you a transformed heart and a transformed mind, which we love.
Yeah. I mean, once I went through that, once I experienced like the realness of the Holy Spirit and how powerful God was, like this thing that kept me bound for my entire life, I experienced joy, which I didn't even realize I didn't have. Like I didn't, we when we're not sad, we think we have happiness and joy, but when you experience like the joy of the Lord for the first time, I mean, it's insane. And, that's all I wanted. I remember going through some struggles later down the road and not having the joy of the Lord. There was some separation. And I remember just wanting that and crying out to God, and the faithfulness that God has done in my life is just crazy. You guys, I drive to work in the morning and just cry. The restoration that's came with my family is really wild. I just got married, and I never thought that would happen ever. I've been a very toxic person my whole life, and God has brought an amazing man alongside me who is on fire for him, that helps guide me and lead me to being a better wife, and just constantly going after God. And he has blessed just our environment, and our families are coming to God, and our children are coming to God, and we're paving a road that is just straight for him. And the opportunities that are coming along the way, that when we just step back and let God do his thing, it's just wild. I'm not even close to the person I used to be. And I don't even know how I got here. I literally said that today at work. I'm like, I don't even know how I got here. Like, I'm not qualified for the things that I'm doing, but God is just reminding me every moment of the day that I am worthy and whose kid I am. And it's been a crazy, wonderful experience.
Well, welcome to George in my world.
Yeah.
Not feeling qualified.
Oh.
Yeah, was that even a consideration for us?
No.
If we had to be qualified, we wouldn't do anything.
No, that's true.
And maybe we should look at that. So I'm real curious, what are you doing for work?
I actually work with people in recovery.
No.
Yes.
Who saw that coming? We talk about all the time on this show that God picks us up, cleans us off, forgives us, and says, hey, I got a job for you to do because you're uniquely qualified. Yeah. How did you get into that, and how long have you been doing it?
I've been with Diversion Solutions for 6 months. I'm working with Lighthouse Beginnings, a nonprofit. I'm PRSSing through them, and I'm working with a bunch of different jurisdictions, starting to work a little bit with Hennepin County, with people coming out of the court systems with, high-level probation cases, and helping them stay on the right path. And it's a little interesting because it's a little more it's more into the secular realm that, because I've always been so close with Teen Challenge, and I definitely thought that would have been my road right away, but it wasn't. And I had to really hand that over to God, and he just showed up. I actually felt called to Brainerd just recently because we have a branch there, and I was there for 4 months. And God just opened the doors for me to come back down to Minneapolis, and I've been here for a week, and it's been great.
Good for you. How are you maintaining your own recovery?
Constantly running after Jesus. I mean, I'm very active and very involved with a lot of different churches. I mean, I've developed relationships with, a bunch of, Teen Challenge has a lot of churches that they get involved with. And I'm a very loud person. So, and I love meeting people. And so I've made a lot of relationships with them, and I love being there to, like there's something to do in Minneapolis with churches every single day. Every single day there's opportunity, and I take advantage of that.
Okay. So the joy of the Lord.
The joy of the Lord.
Every day.
Every day.
Which I love. And then George and I have talked about this, and George, this is something we've talked about in terms of playmates and playgrounds. You have to make sure you avoid both.
Yeah.
Things that have been in your past.
Yeah. Real.
How do you do that?
No, I have no social media.
Okay.
None. No Facebook, no Snapchat.
Neither does George.
You don't?
I got off in the election of 2016 because I wasn't going to have any friends left. I got on there to see how people were doing. Not what they're going to tell me what to do. And I think that's great. I think you need to keep it simple, George, and keep the focus on God and not on you, and work with other people. Mm-hmm. And that works really well. You seem very happy, and the joy you talked about of the Lord. So when we're using, and I love doing cocaine, but I know it's going to end, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to run out. But the joy of the Lord never runs out. It might not be the spike, but it's a contentment, and you know that you're doing right. The Bible tells us happiness doesn't come if you condemn what you're doing. And I messed that up, but you get the point. You know that the Holy Spirit is in there and going, hey, you're sinning.
Right.
And it's not working. I'm so glad you're working with other people. You have a great story. You're a tremendous survivor. And what you've been through, you're uniquely qualified. This is so cool, Bill. When you got sober 3 years ago, God knew the people you were going to work with today, that you were going to be ready to do that. And I always loved that,
Mm-hmm. And Brianna, you're meeting people every day that you can completely understand their circumstances and situation, can't you?
Yeah. Yep.
And you go, I know where they are right now in this moment, and you can address their situation.
Well, and I tell people, too, who say things like, you don't know what I've done. I've been, the dark places. And I'm like, I value the people who've been to darker places than me because they can help people that I can't. Mm-hmm. And so I want those people on my team.
Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're out there in the secular world, which is great. We don't want to stay locked in with our own group. There's people out there that need to hear about the Lord, that are suffering, that don't know the Lord.
Hallelujah.
And who's going to hear it but unless someone carries the good news? And it's harder. I think it's easy. I've worked in Christian centers and secular. It's a lot easier to play Christian 24/7 when you're working at the Salvation Army.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's what we're called to do. And you got a lot of game to help people, and I'm glad you're doing that.
Thanks.
Thanks for doing this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Brandon,
this is awesome.
We just have a couple minutes left, and I'm curious about your family restoration. When your daughter was taken away from you for a while and you got off and went using, was there resentment, bitterness, and has there been restoration?
Yeah, there was a lot. And I've been crying out to God for the last couple months because I just didn't know what to do. They were not happy with the choices I was making with just, my job. And, they just didn't understand they just didn't understand. And getting married. And when they came to the wedding, you guys, the Holy Spirit fell, and I still can't even believe the complete shift that it's created in my family and in my heart. It's softened. God just showed up, and now my daughter is still with my parents, and that's hard. But now there's been this bridging of a gap, and we aren't trying to figure each other out anymore. There's just been a bridge, and it's this point of moving forward. And I just don't even, God, it's a trip.
God is paving the way.
Yes.
That sound all right? Yeah. Well, it's really been fun having you on the show. Quite a story. That wraps up another award-winning episode of Real Recovery. Thanks for joining us tonight. Hope you have a great, great evening. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Programming like this is made available through your support. Information available at myfaithradio.com.
On the latest episode of the Wow God Stories podcast, we go to Africa.
I was raised in Sierra Leone in a community that truly lived the phrase, "It takes a village."
Until one day, the world outside Anita's village broke in.
I didn't grow up in a war zone, but I watched one unfold in the country I love.
God brought hope to her story and many others through radical provision.
God began to direct us towards Uganda, Africa.
I was born and grew up in the countryside of Ethiopia.
Nanja and I met in Kigali, Rwanda.
Discover how God showed up in the middle of war, loss, and impossible odds in Africa. Stories that'll make you say,
"Wow, God.
Wow, God.
Wow, God."
Wow, God Stories. Wherever you get your podcasts.